I'm Caleb Brooks with the AHSAA Radio Network. I'm at Bayside Academy, joined by head football coach, Coach Phil Lazenby. And Coach, you know, you've been a longtime family friend of ours and coached together with my dad at Benjamin Russell. You made the move down here, came down to Mobile. Now you end up here at Bayside and have had some good success here at Bayside. You know, you've competed for a state championship and have had, you know, multiple, you know, double-digit win seasons. And your career in itself is just a great career, you know, for anybody to have. You've been, you know, just state championship after state championship and you know, just won so many games. What is it that has really helped you be so successful everywhere that you've been?
Great assistant coaches and great players, because I've been very fortunate, you know, very fortunate to have every place I've been, you know, really good guys that worked for me and I worked with them. I don't really say and them work for me. It's kind of like we all just work together, and having good kids, I mean, that's a great combination.
Mm-hmm. You come here to this place, Bayside, and I mean, you know, pulling up here, I was just amazed by how nice this place is, and y'all's football field out there is gorgeous, and this place that we're in with all the coaches' offices, the gym is great. You know, but to have the type of facilities, to have the support that you guys have from the administrators here, I mean, how much easier does that make your job as a coach?
I mean, our facilities are really good. You know, we haven't got things maybe like a larger school might have, but as far as for our size, we have just what we need. You know, and it's really, really good to come every day because it's like the same way I was at Benjamin Russell. When I drove up, I knew it was going to be a good day. It was, and when I drive up here, it's the same way. I get out of my truck and I know it's going to be a good day here at Bayside Academy. It's one of the most beautiful locations for a school, possibly right on the bay, the big oak trees, and we have our own pier and our own beach, you know, stuff like that. And facilities are nice, and the people that I work with are very, very nice. I mean, everybody here at Bayside, the people are just so good.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've gathered being around, you know, all the people up here and listening to them talk, is that everybody seems to genuinely love to be here and love and enjoy being here. And, you know, how much does that help for a coach to come to work with other people that do give off positive vibes like that?
Right, absolutely. We were up there. The reason I'm dressed the way I am is because I just came off the field. We were painting the field for our middle school game tonight and for our varsity game Friday night. And I was just, as I was working, I was sweating, hot, and everything. The only thing I was starting to think, man, how blessed and how lucky I am. I said, I've been so lucky my entire career, and to be at a place where I'll probably end my career, I couldn't ask for a better place.
You know, this is a unique place because y'all get to see these kids grow up. I mean, a lot of them, they start in kindergarten, they never leave.
That's
and so, you know, being from other places where you don't have that luxury, I mean, how unique and how different is it to be a part of that here?
It's fun. You know, I even teach pre-K and kindergarten kids Spanish. So I'm with those little kids. They see me around the campus, you know, and they're all talking to me in the few words of Spanish that I've been able to teach them at that age. But it's fun having the little ones around too. It really is. And then, you know, the elementary, middle school, and when they grow up and they come through your program, that's you see them out there playing little YDL, you know, Youth Development League football, and then middle school and high school, and they're all on the same field, and it's fun.
You know, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, I mean, you're at a place like Benjamin Russell where, you know, the city gets behind that program there and supports it. This place is kind of different. I mean, you're in Daphne. Obviously, there's a big Daphne High School here, and so y'all are kind of your own little community here. So what are the differences in being at a place like Benjamin Russell compared to here where, you know, you're in a big city that has another big school and y'all are just your own little place over here at Bayside? Yeah,
I mean, most of the fans are going to be, you know, parents and maybe former students that still live in the area, things like that. But, you know, you're not going to have crowds of, you know, 7,000 and 8,000 people, you know, like you might have at the Sportsplex in Alexander City. But, you know, our stadium will be full, but it's not as big as those. And so it's just a tight-knit little community, and basically the people that support it.
You're good.
Basically the people that support it are the alumni and the parents of the children that are here. But you'll see a lot of the elementary school children parents here, middle school parents, high school parents, a lot of them, and they support the programs.
You know, not just football, not just volleyball, but really all the sports here have had success. They've all been really good.
You know, we've got one of our baseball coaches still works here. He works with me, and Doug Lefford. You know, he won. I don't know how many ball games he won here, but he won a bunch of them. And he retired from baseball and is still coaching with me in football. Does a great job as offense coordinator. Our tennis program is extremely good. Golf has won state championships. Tennis won state championships. We've won numerous state championships in cross country and in boys and girls track, which is, you know, that's good for a small school like this to be able to do that.
You know, especially I was talking to volleyball players about this. You know, they're playing 4A ball, obviously, and for you guys, you're playing 3A ball, and you're really a 2A size school.
Right.
So, what are the difficulties you face as a coach in having to do that and play up in a classification?
Well, the number game. You know, we don't like. Last week we, lined up against a 3A school. They dressed out 63 kids. You know, we dressed out 38. There's a big difference between some of the schools that we play. 5A schools, they'd be dressing 70. You know, and that's the difference. Really, it's the numbers and the number of athletes to choose from. We just don't have a huge number of children to choose from, and what we play with is what comes up through our system. We don't, that's the only children we have that play. So you got to cultivate it early on, in the youth development league, and make sure that they stay with it and have a good experience along the way. So. You just have to, like I said, you're your own farm system, and that's all you got.
I mean, that's pretty much how it is.
Yeah.
You know, for you to think back from when you first got started coaching to now where you are, and you talked about ending your career here, but where have you grown the most as a football coach?
I'll tell you, as far as my first head coaching job, I thought I knew a lot more than I did, and the first season that I coached, I went 4-6, and I was starting to doubt, that maybe I am not fit to be a head coach or whatever, because I had come from a big school. I went to a little bit smaller school, and I thought for sure, I know all this stuff, and I didn't. And I think just the experience of talking to other coaches. Coaching clinics, all these things that helped me, especially talking to other coaches and how do you do this? How do you do that? What about this situation? What about that? And learning from other successful coaches around the state. I mean, of all the people that I've talked with and met and worked with that are Hall of Famers and everything else, and they're the ones that really have helped me the most. So I think my first 5 years of being a head coach at Guntersville High School, I think that got me ready for the other ones. And we got better as we went along, or I got a little bit more, the old Southern term, learned. Yeah. I got learned quickly. I was taught by good people that helped me out, and basically that's it. I think those first 5 years of being a head football coach, it woke me up to, hey, I better, learn a lot more than I know right now.
And like you mentioned Guntersville and being there, and then making the move to Benjamin Russell, and now you are down here in the Mobile area. You've gotten to kind of be at every level of the state, the north part, central part, and
north, middle.
Yeah.
I was assistant at Mountain Brook for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot there, specific stuff, specific to the positions that I were teaching. But the overall, being a head coach is a lot different. The only way you can learn that is to do it. That's the only way you can learn it. But Mountain Brook taught me a lot about offensive line play, defensive, like linebacker play on defense, offensive line play. And but as you went on to be a head coach, the only way to do it is to go out there and do it, and then listen to other head coaches and their ideas and what you can take away from them.
You know, when you look down all the list of schools that you have been at, there's not many schools, if any, that you look at it and there wasn't talent there. I mean, you've been blessed to be a part of some places with great talent.
I've never had a bad job. I've never had a bad job. I've been very, very fortunate. Like I said on the field today, I was saying how blessed I was and how fortunate I was all through my career. When I first started, it was assistant coach, and it was an economically poor area, but that's where I was from, Bessemer, and that's where I was from. And so I came in and coached, and I loved it just like I loved going to Mountain Brook, which completely different, demographics and everything like that, but I loved it just like I loved being at Bessemer. And then when I went to Guntersville, it was up in the, out of the big city and there, and I loved it just the same. I had 1 year at Southside of Gadsden. I was prepared to stay there my entire career if I, because I didn't know any better, But Southside people were great too, and the kids were great, and we had some success there that 1 year. But then when the job came open in Alexander City, I could not turn that down. I just couldn't. It was a great opportunity for me, a bigger school, 6A top classification, and then after that, everything's just worked out.
Yeah, and you talk about taking that Benjamin Russell job and how it was a job that at the time you just couldn't refuse it. Your first year there, you go to a state championship at 6A, and
I'm a pretty lucky guy.
But to take over a job, and obviously you walked into great talent. You followed up Coach Savarese there, and he had left you in good shape. But to walk into a place in the first year at the highest classification, go to a state championship with a team that a lot of people consider wasn't as talented as some of the teams Coach Sav had the years before.
Yeah.
How special was that run for you back then?
It was great, and have those coaches that I had, the good ones that I had, Carl Martin, Mark Lassiter, Jeff Williams. These are guys that have been successful on their own, as head coaches. So I had great coaches, and I think that maybe when I first got there, it was a little bit, they weren't sure of me because maybe I did things differently than Coach Savarese, but once they got used to the way I was doing it, everything was fine. And like I said, those coaches did a great job. Steve Savarese has always been very supportive of me and everything that I've done, and I've asked him numerous questions about football. I mean, not just about, I'm talking about specific things, like on the draw, when you run your draw, stuff like that. A specific question. Carl, great guy. Jeff Williams and I talk all the time. Of course, Mark Lasser's on my staff now.
Still.
Been here for 7 years. So, again, very lucky, very blessed, and just happy that I'm still standing upright and being able to coach.
And you mentioned Coach Lassiter, but to have a guy that did coach under you before, y'all kind of went your separate ways, and then he comes back and is coaching with you again. To have a guy that wants to come back and coach with you. And
that's really good.
But I mean, how much does that mean to you as coach? Obviously, you're doing something right.
Well, I just didn't have as many meetings as Coach Savarese. That's why he came back. He said, I think you don't have as many meetings, so I'm going to come back and coach with you. But that's important. I mean, it's when somebody wants to work with you and has worked with you before, and that's good. I mean, that's nice. And the thing about it is, all these people are friends of mine. They're not people that I used to work with. They're friends, and it's the same way here. I could say my coaching staff here, hey, I've got a problem or something like that. They'd be first one there to help me, first person there to help me. They're good people here and good coaches. My gosh, I've got 3 former head coaches on my staff.
Yeah.
Coach, whether you're coaching baseball or football, and Coach Watson is also on my staff. He's one of the best basketball coaches in the state of Alabama, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion. And he's on my staff too. So I've got so much experience and on my staff, and so many people that are so good, and I'm so lucky and fortunate.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very similar to UMS right up the road with all the coaches they have on their staff.
And I loved coaching there. I was there for 6 years and went to 3 state championships, loved it. Learned a lot too from Terry Curtis. I mean, it wasn't just me going over there and helping him. He helped me a lot, and I learned a lot of things from a lot of good people.
Yeah, and I mean, you hear people talk about it with him, with you here. I mean, to have head coaches on your staff, how helpful is that to have guys that know exactly what you're going through?
It's great. I've been fortunate, like I said, very fortunate. Gunnersville, I went there, and there was a guy that had been assistant coach for years, and he was there, and he helped me out. Phil Lazenby became the head coach later on, took him to a state championship. Great guys. Benjamin Russell, had your dad. I had all these great coaches, around me. Jeff Williams, Mark Lester, Carl Martin, just great guys, great coaches, and it hasn't changed since. I've always been fortunate to have people that really like the game of football and want to coach the game of football, not just put in their time. That's one thing that I would not handle very well.
Tell me a little bit about this year's team. Talking to you before, It's been a struggle here early in the year for you guys, which everybody faces that at some point. But how do you feel about this team, and where do y'all really need to improve in order to get to play in the level of ball that you feel like y'all can play?
The young people, the young kids that we've got that are playing have got to get as much game experience as they can, and they are, because they're playing. We looked at it where we got seven freshmen and sophomores, two freshmen and 5 sophomores starting.
Wow.
And that's awful young to be playing, because the people that we play are not. This is the toughest region, in my opinion, from top to bottom in all of 3A. You've got Thomasville, who used to be a very powerful 4A school, athletes all over the place. Mobile Christian, athletes all over the place. Flomaton, a state championship last year. Great athletes, great quarterback, and these guys are coaches too. These are good coaches too.
Oh, yeah.
These are not just people that are just playing with good players. These are good coaching and good playing by their players. T.R. Miller winning his program in the state. Great coach there, and it goes on, and it's a tough region.
No doubt.
So our kids really got to grow up in a hurry. Last week we got beat by a much better team than we were, and we didn't play that well either, and that compounded it. But these young ones have got to grow up. They just got to grow up and get more physical. But when you're playing I've got a couple of 14-year-olds that are playing, starting, and they're playing against 18-year-olds, and there's a big difference between a 14 and an 18-year-old. And they're taking their lumps right now, but eventually it'll come back around.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is obviously you're focused on this year and this year's team, but how much do you think this experience for them will pay off for your program?
I always peek on my roster and look at who's coming back next year. I always do. I do that, and I'll look at it and put a roster. I said, my gosh, we're going to have 16 starters coming back. I said, if we can't be a little bit more successful from that, we lost every single offensive lineman and every single defensive lineman starters from last year's team. So all these people are brand new. And like I said, they're taking their lumps right now. And as the year goes around, I expect them to get better.
Football's a game that it's won in the trenches. It's won up front. So when you do lose every defensive lineman, every offensive lineman, what are the challenges then the next season of trying to replace that?
It's tough. Last year's group, we had a lot of injuries early in the year. We lost some very, very important games. We still had a winning season, but it wasn't what we really wanted. But, for an example, later on in the year, as things returned around, we got all our kids back. We beat the 3A state champs by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And we were just better that second half of the year. First half of the year, I didn't do my job the way I should have, and the rest of the coaching staff didn't apparently, and the players didn't play the way they should. And finally, it was my decision to decide to get a little bit more physical here at practice, and it was the best thing for us. And of course, but I had seniors.
Yeah.
And they understood that and could take that. I do some of those things right now with these freshmen. I may run them off, and I don't want to do that.
You mentioned last year, and y'all did struggle early last year too. So how much are you using last year as an example to this group to kind of say, look, we still got
we got a shot.
Ahead of us.
We got a shot. We still have a chance, and we break down every end of every practice with state champs on 3. 1, 2, 3 state champs. I did it at Benjamin Russell. 1, 2, 3 state champs. Up until the point where you didn't have a chance to do it. In other words, where that last ball game and it's the second round or third round or all the way to I didn't have to do it but twice. We went 2 out of the 4 years I was there, but which was very fortunate. But as long as you got a chance, that's the way we feel. You said, hey, anything can happen, and that's the way we break it down until the point where you can't. It's mathematically not possible.
When you have a place like this that does have success across all athletics, what is the difficulties of all of y'all as coaches to keep your kids motivated and not let them get complacent with all that they have here? Because it's easy for a kid to sit here and go, I got all this nice stuff.
Yeah.
We just win all the time. Why do I need to work hard? So what is the challenges for y'all here, everybody, coaches at Bayside, to really keep everybody motivated?
I think in reality, a lot of it comes from the parents. Now, if you've got a student who has parents that are motivated, they're motivated to do well in their jobs, motivated to have a great family, motivated to have, do things correctly, about all that stuff, then it's easy to teach those type of kids. It's those kids that don't have it at home is when you have the problem. Motivation, I can motivate a child just to a point, but the parents are the real motivators. They are. And it's a way a child is raised. I could go down my list and I could say, and if I don't know that person really well, I can say, I bet you that's a good parent. I bet you that boy has a really good parent. I bet you that person has a really good parent. And then this one I go, well, probably doesn't make them do too much around the house, doesn't make them work too hard. And because it's generally the way you're raised.
Yeah.
And that's the way I feel. I mean, I know that the way you were raised, that you didn't have a choice. I mean, I knew that. Yeah. I could look at your dad, and I knew that. Hey, there was only one thing for you, and that was go as hard as you could.
Yes, sir.
And do the best you can.
And I agree with that. I can tell you from experience that, I wouldn't have been the type of person that I am and have become without my parents guiding me in that direction. This is a place where it's an academy.
Yeah.
These kids are here from birth. Their parents are paying money.
They're
choosing for them to come to school here. And so, being a guy that's been at public schools where you kind of, you have to take the kids that are in that zone compared to this. What are the differences in the kids of, just these are kids here that they're growing up with parents that do have money, that are keeping them organized, and it is different.
Yeah. It's always, you're always going to have some, no matter what group you're in and what school you're in or whatever, you're always going to have some that are going to buck the system. They're always. There's just people. That's people. It's like saying all preachers are great people. That's not true.
Yeah.
There are some that are bad. They're just trying to fool you. And not all football players behave the way you want them, and not all football players go 100%, and not all people that you teach or coach are going to do exactly what you want them to do. It's how you react to that. Are you going to get to the bottom of it, find out what the problem was, and let's correct it? But I'm not going to coach a child a whole lot different whether they're good or whether they're bad, because I'm going to coach a child to be successful, to try to be successful. If you can't be successful, and if you don't work hard, then there's not much I can do.
Yeah.
You're going to be on the team and you'll sit on the bench. That's just the way it is. Because, if you don't work hard, my dad worked in the steel mills. And when I came home, I would be at home or come home about the same time he did sometimes from, football practice. He'd be dirtier than me. And hotter and sweatier than me. And so I learned from him, putting 4 kids through college, and all the hard work he put in, a World War II veteran. I hope that I learned. I hope that I learned what hard work was, and what fairness was, and there's no way in the world I had his bravery. So I can't use that. Although I did follow in his footsteps in the service, but like I said, I just, there's kids, and They come from all different backgrounds. You'd be surprised how many kids that come to school here where their parents spend almost every bit of their extra money just so their child can come to here. And they're not well off, and they're not, driving sports cars and all this other stuff. It doesn't work that way sometimes. And yeah, we do have, doctors' children, and lawyers' children, big business people, but we also have teachers' children here because a lot of the teachers love the school and they want their children. My two in here.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you want them to go here?
I know.
I mean, really, because this place here, I mean, you can just tell the structure of it and everything that goes with it. So, for your team, where do you guys go from here? I mean, obviously you said that y'all need to grow up. Yeah. But, I mean, you obviously, y'all do need to grow up. But, I mean, what is it that's going to make it or break it for this team on this season, do you feel like?
No, you always point to senior leadership. A lot of people point, and ours, I don't know if we have really that many seniors. We do have a couple of senior leaders on the team, and they have not let, this get them down so far. And so that's good. You got your seniors that are still working to be successful and to win. So, and I know this sounds a little petty, but if you've been out in this weather that we've had for this last month, it's hard to be really excited. Yeah,
that's true.
Because it is miserable.
Yeah, it's hot.
But you got to work through it, and that is. I don't say that's part of it, but the younger you are and the less physical you are, the harder it is to overcome things like this weather.
Yes, sir.
They start feeling sorry for themselves, things like that. It's hot, whatever. And but you can't. You got to go. You got to do it.
Yeah, and just like last year, I mean, you guys got better as the year went on.
That's right.
Hopefully, it'll happen again this year.
I mean, we're only 3 years. Away from having gone to a state championship, and so it can be done. It can be done with less talent if you have talent that works really, really hard.
Yeah, I mean that goes back to that saying of hard work.
Yeah.
Beats out talent.
Yeah,
every day.
If talent doesn't work hard.
Talent doesn't work
hard. I swear I saw that. Coach Leffert had it in his field house. That's right, he sure did.
Yeah, and I love that quote. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you taking time to sit down.
I
mean, it's good to see you again, and
good to see you.
Thank you for letting me come and talk to you about your program and see this place. It's been cool to come down here to Mobile. I hadn't been down here yet.
Really?
See all the different schools. So I mean, obviously my life, but for doing this, hadn't been down here. So yeah, it's been good to come see some of the different schools and
we're glad
see
to
the
have
different
you.
programs. So good luck to you guys, and looking forward to seeing how this year shapes out.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.